Hi everyone, Amy here. Welcome to the next episode of my Tools for Life YouTube series. I have started this video like 3 times tonight because my dog keeps wanting attention and I keep having to stop and start over again. But here she is. She's been trying to get my attention all evening. Her name is Sally. So anyway, we're going to try this again. Anyway, my Tools for Life series is going to be about a hodgepodge of information, including life coaching topics, psychology, and mental health issues, just a little bit of everything. My first video in this series was on the highly sensitive person, or HSP, and tonight is going to be on the empath. Originally, I was going to include the empath in with my highly sensitive person video, but there's actually so much information out there on both that I decided to devote a whole video to the empath itself. So, you know, I used to hear people throwing around the word a lot, empath, and other labels. At first I thought, that sounds a little kooky, and a little bit of like pop psychology or pseudoscience, until I started really researching and reading that the brains of highly sensitive people, such as myself, and empaths actually have different brains from non-HSPs or non-empaths, and our brains process information differently, so there's an actual science behind it. And learning this has given me a better understanding of myself. So I'm going to read to you the definition of an empath. An empath is a person highly attuned to the feelings and emotions of those around them. Their ability to discern what others are feeling goes beyond empathy, defined simply as the ability to understand the feelings of others, and extends to actually taking those feelings on, feeling what another person is feeling at a deep emotional level. I know that in college, when we studied, I took a child development class, and I remember that one of the, not precursors, but one of the traits that they look at in children when predicting like possible antisocial personality disorder later on. You have to be 18 in order to fit that criteria. But before that, one of the traits that they look for with a child who's possibly oppositional defiant or something like that is empathy. Do they have it, or are they not able to show it? And I guess a good example would be, let's say, a mother cuts herself while she's cooking dinner, and we would watch, how her child might react. Generally, children will show some kind of empathy, like, "Oh, I'm sorry you cut yourself, mommy," or "Let me kiss it and make it better." But if a child doesn't show empathy, that can be a kind of a red flag. Not always, because I have actually seen some children who have not shown empathy, a lot as children, but have grown up to be very well-adjusted adults. But going along with the highly sensitive person, I was, when I first started preparing for this episode, I wanted to know, what's the difference between a highly sensitive person and an empath? Are they mutually exclusive? Can you be one and not the other? Or are all empaths highly sensitive people? Are all highly sensitive people empaths? So I'm going to read to you some of the major similarities and differences. And like I said before, my videos are usually 50% of me pulling information from a lot of different articles and notes that I've typed up, and then 50% kind of winging it. So just bear with me as I pull up some of these articles. I have like 10 different windows open, and I think they're in order. Okay, so there are a lot of similarities between the highly sensitive person and the empath. There we go. So basically, as we said in the last video, like a highly sensitive person is very, very guided by external stimuli, very sensitive to external stimuli, and feel very deeply, as well as an empath. So actually, I'm just going to read you the major difference. The empaths actually take the experience of the highly sensitive person much further. We can sense subtle energy and actually absorb it from other people and different environments into our own bodies. Highly sensitive people don't typically do that unless they are empaths. This capacity allows us to experience the energies around us in extremely deep ways. Since everything is made of subtle energy, including emotions and physical sensations, we energetically internalize the feelings and pain of others. We often have trouble distinguishing someone else's discomfort from our own. Let's see. So I found that really interesting because, as I've talked about in some of my haunted videos, my whole life, I've always gotten what I call vibes from people in places too. I mean, I could walk into a place and just immediately be like, oh, I don't really feel comfortable here. You know, I don't like this place. It feels negative to me. So, you know, I thought everybody was like that. I thought that everybody felt that way and that everybody absorbed other people's emotions. Like, you know, I was thinking, well, if you're around someone who's in a bad mood, aren't you going to be in a bad mood? Or if they're sad, aren't you going to be sad? But then I know people where you could be telling them something catastrophic has just happened in your life, and they'll be like, oh, that's really sad, I'm sorry. And then like they'll have like a 5-second mourning period for you, and then they're off and running on, their own topic. And I'm starting to really admire those people who can just, not absorb everything that other people are feeling and emitting. And I would really like to be a person like that right now, because yeah, I absorb everything in my environment, everything, when I'm around people. And that can lead to a lot of depression, anxiety, physical manifestations, sickness, chronic fatigue, which I actually have chronic fatigue syndrome. And I got chronic fatigue syndrome after I contracted a virus, kind of similar to what the COVID long haulers are seeing now. But I'm sure that there might have been other things at play too, because I internalize all of my pain and other people's pain. For instance, I feel like I have this really delicate ecosystem going on with with myself and the other people in my life. And if one thing changes, like if I feel like a friend or family member is in a bad mood or upset with me, that really affects my mood. Like it'll affect my whole mood for the rest of the night. If I see them or talk to them and I don't feel like they're in a good mood. I actually started writing a poem in my next poetry book about how my happiness is tethered to others, like a balloon tethered to my wrist. When they're up, I'm up. When they're down, I'm down. And it's just like this emotional roller coaster. And I haven't quite managed yet to figure out how not to do that, how not to let external stimuli or other people's emotions affect me. And I'm still working on that. I'm going to read you some of the traits. Let's see. Some of the traits of an empath. If I can find the article here. Being an empath. Give me a second. Okay. Sorry, I thought I had these in order. Oh, here we go. It was the first article. Okay. Here are 14 traits of an empath, and I'm going to tell you how my own experiences relate to these, or if they do. Number one, empaths are highly sensitive and emotional. Empaths are very open, easy to trust, and very responsive to emotional experiences, whether their own or someone else's. The sensitivity means you can experience the highest highs, but it also curses you with the lowest lows, and with the propensity to be deeply hurt by fractured relationships. If you're an empath, you may go through a wide range of emotions every day, both because of your own responses to life and because of what you pick up. Most definitely. And like I said, I just thought everybody was like that. So I think that because of that, I kind of at an early age maybe tried to hide my emotions. I just thought, okay, well, everybody feels this deeply. They just don't show it. So I guess I tried to develop like this very even-keeled exterior. Like no matter what was going on inside of me, I tried to look, very calm and even-keeled. So that's definitely applies to me. Number two, they are often introverts and need alone time. Like I said, I don't know. I think maybe I'm 50-50 introvert, extrovert. I'm not sure. Says while you likely love intensely and genuinely care for people, your propensity to take on their emotions means that alone time is essential. Indeed, most empaths recharge when they're on their own rather than deriving energy from social situations like extroverts do. So if you have higher than average levels of empathy, there are probably many weekends when you'd rather curl up at home with a good book than accept an invitation to a party. Right now, I have too much downtime and too much alone time, but if I were, if I were working, 8 or so hours a day, every day, then yeah, I absolutely would need my alone time to recharge. And as much as I love to be with friends and family, it does take a certain amount of energy when you do absorb all the emotions and feelings of people. So yeah, that definitely applies to me. Number three, unfortunately, empaths are easy targets for manipulators. Your empathy means that people may sometimes take advantage of you. Consequently, they may manipulate you into a position where you meet their emotional needs and get very little out of the relationship yourself. For example, you may have noticed that you often attract narcissists who are at the opposite end of the empathy spectrum. I think I did forget to mention that. The narcissists are actually at the lowest end of the spectrum from the empath. The opposite end of the empathy spectrum, and victims who need to be rescued by compassionate individuals. Consequently, empaths need to be careful about who they let into their hearts. Definitely. It's weird because, I have obviously good intuition when it comes to people. Unfortunately, I don't always follow my gut or my instinct. I tell other people to do it, but I don't do it. And two of the people who have hurt me the most in my life, I remember, before entering a relationship with them, I said, this is what I said. That my first feeling was, well, they seem a little mentally unstable, but nice enough, probably harmless. No, no. no, just the first one was right. So you really do have to watch who you let into your life. Um, but then there are times when, I go to help someone, and in my head, I'm like, I know this is going to end badly, but I do it anyway. And I will probably continue to do it, although I'm trying to get better at setting boundaries with people. And I think, too, um, being, I don't know, I think that empaths are probably people pleasers, too, in addition to highly sensitive people. And I think that people tend to underestimate us. I remember the first time I heard the quote, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness," and how much that applied to me, because we're definitely not weak, and we probably, if you're trying to manipulate us, we probably saw you coming from miles around before you even got to us. So we know what you're up to. We just may not say anything, and we'll just see how that plays out. But I think, too, being underestimated can also work to your favor as well. Um, so, number 4, they have great intuition and keen senses. One of the most obvious empath traits is the ability to pick up on subtle cues way earlier than most people. So you might notice a potential romance between two friends before anyone else does, or you may pick up indications of danger very quickly. Plus, you probably have a talent for taking calculated risks. This intuitive sharpness is one of the great benefits of empathy and gives you an edge in many areas of life. No, I definitely am not a matchmaker. But let's see. Very intuitive, though, absolutely. And as I said in my highly sensitive person video, there are times when I wish that I weren't so intuitive because, I've been able to see some really catastrophic things coming into my life, but I haven't been able to stop them. So there are times when I wish I weren't so intuitive. And I think I have a good danger sense. I've been told I'm paranoid, but I'm like, well, it's kept me alive this many years. So, number 5, they take on other people's feelings and issues. As noted above, being an empath makes you susceptible to muddling your emotions with those of others. For example, you might take on the bad moods of colleagues and end up fighting with your partner, or you may passively absorb the views of a group that do not typically represent your values. Creating and maintaining boundaries between yourself and others is a vital part of living with enhanced empathy, allowing you to identify what's really yours. Um, yeah, I guess I would say that. There are definitely times when I let other things that are going on in other people's lives definitely affect what's going on in mine, and it's very hard for me to separate those two. Like I said, if I feel like a loved one is upset or, sick, it's hard for me to feel joy, for instance. I take on all of those feelings. So I definitely can relate to that. Number 6, empaths tend to be incredibly creative. The heightened emotions and experiences of empaths gives them an enormous wealth of material to express in creative ways. If you're an empath, it's likely that you are frequently inspired because of what you feel. Some empaths are traditional artists, musicians, or writers, while others are actors, dancers, or physically expressive in other ways. In many cases, creative acts help empaths release pent-up emotion in a healthy, productive way. That's definitely me. I used to dance and work out. That was how I relieved my stress when I was younger. And unfortunately, I became injured early on, like the age of 19, where I couldn't work out like I used to or dance. And so now it's very hard to find outlets that help me get rid of like those negative feelings. So I write still. I mean, having a physical outlet there's really no replacement for that. But I do write, and I'm making these videos, which are really cathartic. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Number 7, people say they are great listeners. Unsurprisingly, the friends and family of empaths often report that they are fantastic listeners. This is because being a truly good listener requires putting yourself in the other person's shoes. No one is better at doing that than someone who intuitively picks up emotions. Empaths are often wonderful at putting a loved one's feelings into words, making them feel understood, respected, and less alone. Consequently, empaths often gravitate towards jobs that involve listening, in example, counseling and teaching. So, I mean, I try to be a good listener. I've been told I am, but it's important to me to learn about the people in my life. I love to learn about what makes them tick, what their interests are. Um, so I think that probably helps too, that I am interested in learning about them. So I think it does make me, if I'm really concentrating, it makes me a decent listener. Okay, right here, number 8, they hate to say no. Another people pleaser. Due to being able to feel other people's disappointment, desperation, and sadness, empaths really hate to have to say no. This means they often take on way too many commitments. Unfortunately, this is usually they can meet the needs of their families, friends, and coworkers. If you're an empath, you're also so used to doing emotional labor for other people that you just automatically expand this to induce general favors, even if you're already overburdened. That's definitely me, and I have trouble setting boundaries, because when you try to set boundaries with someone, that's how do I want to describe it? You're that's conflict, and I like to um, avoid conflict. So I'm probably, like in my last video, I'm not going to tell you if you hurt my feelings until like maybe the 7th or 8th time, and then I'm just going to explode, and you're going to have no idea why, because it's not easy for us to say, what you said really hurt my feelings. That, and as much as I'd like to think that we're all adults, most people really can't handle when you confront them about behavior like that. So I guess I've just kind of clammed up, and not set boundaries. And I'm trying to get better at it, because, we all need to set boundaries of the behavior that we will accept and won't accept. It's very important. And it's also important to be around people who respect your boundaries. There are some people who are never ever going to respect your boundaries. And if those are not family members or people that you don't have to come in contact with, coworkers or whatever, I would say cut them out of your life. Um, because, it's really about self-care. You really need to take care of yourself. Number 9, empaths are human lie detectors. In general, you'll benefit from the ability to pick up lies in other people. It can help you make early decisions about whether to trust someone with a secret, for example. It can also help you protect your loved ones from liars. The less pleasant side of being a human lie detector is that it allows you to see through someone when you'd rather stay in the dark. This can be painful, even though it's helpful. I'm not going to say people can't lie to me, but I have had people tell me, I really can't lie to you. I'm like, well, you can, but I mean, we really pick up on body language, a lot of what people say, and a lot of what people don't say. And I've had people say to me, how did you get that from what I said? And they'll be offended by my observations, but I'm thinking, well, you must really not be aware of what you're putting out there, your body language and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, people can definitely lie to me, but, the chances of me knowing that are probably pretty high. Number 10 is definitely me. They often suffer from fatigue and anxiety. There are many positive effects of kindness on health. However, if you're an empath, then the level of kindness you extend to others may be downright exhausting. You can be so busy trying to carry other people's emotions, listening to their issues, and helping them solve their problems that you become physically fatigued or emotionally strung out. As a result, empaths are susceptible to chronic fatigue syndrome, which I have, and to mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Definitely me. I think I'm in a burnout phase of my life right now. I'm trying to rebuild because I haven't made myself priority. And I always in the past felt selfish, doing self-care. But I mean, the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup is so true. I mean, who can you help if you are tired and anxious and burnout? So I can definitely relate to that one so well. 11, they can be easily overwhelmed by their empathic powers. Even once you understand your empathy quite well and have learned techniques to separate your emotions, it's very easy to tip back over into being overwhelmed again. For example, if someone you love is in distress, you might be utterly swamped by their sadness. Meanwhile, if you're in a large crowd, then the proximity of so many minds and emotions can feel too much to bear. There are some of the many reasons why empaths need time alone. And for me, being that people pleaser, I always feel like I need to be accessible to everybody in my life, like 24/7. And that's just not realistic. Everybody needs some downtime. I always feel like I need to get back to a text right away. I need to get back to a message right away, and I'm trying to get better at. And, for like the people in my inner circle, like, yeah, I am always uh, I'm sorry, I'm so tired tonight. I am always accessible, like I have certain people, just a couple of people favorited in my phone list, and some, like my parents and a couple of other people. But I'm trying to get better at telling people, look, don't take it personally if I don't get back with you right away, message wise. Some days I might not feel up to it. I'm disabled with a chronic illness, and then, I do struggle with the anxiety and depression that goes with it. So I'm trying to get better at telling people, just don't take it personally, because I might just not be up to it. One thing I really hate, and I don't tell people this, but sometimes, I just get on Facebook, just to relax or whatever. But that does not mean that I'm ready for a full-blown conversation. I might be feeling, bad physically, or kind of depressed, or anxious. And then right out of the blue, boom, someone's like messaging me wanting to start this conversation. And usually it's someone that I don't even really know. And I try to be kind, but they start to get pushy, like, well, why aren't you answering me? And I want to get to know you. I want to talk to you. And I get really annoyed when someone corners me like that. And maybe everybody's like that, but, that, like I said, that really annoys me when people do that. And like I said, I usually wouldn't tell them in the past, but now I am. I'm like, don't take it personally. I might just not feel up to it. And we really don't have any obligation to, I'm thinking a lot of these people, like I said, I don't even really know. And I'm thinking, trying to be nice, but I really don't have any obligation to talk to you. I don't know you. You're not really being respectful of me or my boundaries. I think most people would have like unfriended and blocked you by now, but I'm trying to be kind. So I'm trying to get better at, like I said, setting boundaries and protecting myself, because You know, there are some people who they call emotional vampires or energy vampires, and they will just suck the life out of you if you let them. So, like I said, I'm trying really hard to be better at setting boundaries. Um, 12. Empaths love to be surrounded by nature. There we go again. Um, and like I said in my highly sensitive person video, yeah, nature is great if I'm on a nice beach, you know, relaxing, but not so great if I'm hiking and getting bitten by a million bugs. So, but I think for most empaths, you know, they do like to get away from the hectic, noisy um, times in life. Says if you have a high level of empathy, being out in wide open spaces can feel wonderfully quiet and replenishing. In fact, many empaths cite being by the ocean. Absolutely. And I'm going to do another video on just being attracted to the water, being um, pulled to the water. I just read that empaths really do crave water and being around it, and that's definitely me. Number 13, they are chronic daydreamers. Oh, yeah. I look back, I really have no idea how I made it through 12 years of school, kindergarten, well, that would be 13, kindergarten to senior year, then 4 years of college, without my brain just, you know, daydreaming away in class. One of the less obvious empath signs is consistent daydreaming. This is often associated with the vivid imagination of the empath. Consequently, this allows you to contemplate an endless range of scenarios, especially scenarios that are highly emotionally evocative. In addition, daydreaming can feel like a way of escaping everyday life, so many empaths will turn to the power of their creative minds. This can help to distract them from the overwhelming emotions of others around them. I think that's definitely probably one thing that drew me to dancing early on and writing. Those were my outlets. Um, Number 14, empaths often neglect themselves. Yes, I just talked about that. How, you know, a lot of times I put other people's needs over my own because I'm a people pleaser and I want to help people. And unfortunately, sometimes the last person um, I end up helping is myself. And I'm trying to change that because, you know, right now I feel like I'm in burnout phase and I don't feel like I'm at the top of my game to help people right now. I mean, I can in little ways, but um, I feel like I'm rebuilding. I'm in my rebuilding phase right now. Um, Numbers. Oh, okay. So this is a good one. Like I said, you know, at first I thought some of these labels were pop psychology and pseudoscience until I started reading the scientific studies that they've done on the brains of people with people who are highly sensitive persons and people who are empaths. And I think I actually have this two articles. Um, so there are several scientific explanations for why an empath could be the way they are. Um, I need new glasses. That's why I'm having trouble reading tonight. Number one, sensory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder is a condition that makes the affected individual's brain struggle to work through the information absorbed from the world around them. It can make you oversensitive to everything from smells to sounds and light touches on the skin. This process can be perceived as painful, and when life gets too noisy or overstimulating in some other way, you may wobble on your feet, trip up easily, and find it difficult to judge distances. Some people even report dizziness as well as increased anxiety. Now, how does all of this relate to empathy? Some scientists have suggested that sensory sensitivity may also occur at the level of emotions in some people. This would make them much more aware of the feelings of others. On this view, enhanced empathy is the emotional equivalent of feeling pain at the gentlest touch on your arm. As for what causes sensory processing disorder in the first instant, the evidence is mixed. Some studies indicate a genetic component, so empaths may have at least one highly empathetic parent, and others link sensory processing disorder to abnormal brain activity that occurs in response to noise or light. I think this is very interesting, kind of ironic in my life, because I am so sensitive to stimuli, external stimuli, and also, to people's pain and everything. But then I also have fibromyalgia, which one of the theories that they have causes that is our brains are not able to filter out pain. So I find it interesting that, I'm an empath and a highly sensitive person, and I have trouble filtering out the emotional pain, but now I also have a physical disorder where my brain has trouble filtering out physical pain. And that leads me to something kind of interesting. I've always been interested in how the brain works. I just think it's an amazing creation. And one of the things that I started studying early on was how illicit drugs and different drugs affected the brain. And the other night I was actually doing research on how LSD affects the brain. I'm like, why do people hallucinate, on acid? And I'm like, what part of the brain does that affect? And so I just read this quick little blurb about how basically the drug does not allow your brain to filter out all of that information. So you're just getting all of this information bombarding you, all of these images and everything. And I just thought that was really interesting. So of course, an empath or highly sensitive person is not to that extent regarding not being able to filter out information, but a little bit of a similarity there. Number 2, empaths could have overactive mirror neurons, and I talked about this in my highly sensitive person video. In the simplest terms, mirror neurons are brain cells that have a proven link to human compassion. It is because of these neurons that the majority of us are able to experience at least minimal empathy. For example, feeling sad when someone is hurting, or experiencing happiness in the face of another person's joyful success. So it says that brain scans indicate that in the empath's brain, or the highly sensitive person's brain, our mirror neurons could be extremely overactive as compared to the non-empath or the non-highly sensitive person. So it says that the connection between mirror neurons and empaths is that there's a strong possibility that more neurons may lead to more intense empathy. So if you're an empath, you may have a larger than average proliferation of these brain cells. Once again, there is likely to be a genetic compound or component in play here. And I fully believe that I was just born this way. I really do. And then, maybe environmental factors help shape it, but I really believe that I was born this way. So that would be nature instead of nurture. Number 3, electromagnetism. On an entirely different note, many of the above empath symptoms could be explained by electromagnetism. This particular theory derives from some fascinating work conducted by researchers at the HeartMath Institute, who have explored whether our electromagnetic fields are capable of influencing the magnetic fields of others, which I find super interesting. One of my friends who I've mentioned in one of my other videos, we kind of have this psychic connection, but when she lived in this area close to me, when I would get into her car, a lot of times it wouldn't start, and it was only with me. And I kind of joked and I said, well, maybe I give off more energy than other people. And, you know, the more I read, the more I think maybe I actually do. That could be a thing. I mean, backed by science. It says that, in particular, the Institute has discussed findings suggesting that our hearts and brains generate their own unique electromagnetic fields. These fields are thought to be able to communicate certain content about the individual's feelings, desires, and beliefs, even those among us who are not natural-born empaths. So that's super interesting. And like I said, I pull from a lot of different articles, but I'm just reading these for the first time too. So I find that super interesting. Number 4, hormone and chemical sensitivities. Parts of empath psychology could also relate to hormone levels and to levels of neurotransmitters, an example, chemical messengers in our brains, such as dopamine and serotonin, and I talked about those before with the highly sensitive person. It says one particularly promising contender is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in how we respond to pleasure. Studies in the general population indicate that introverted people are most sensitive to dopamine when compared to extroverted individuals. This means that introverted people tend to need lower levels of dopamine in order to experience happiness and pleasure. It's possible that this tendency generalizes. So if you're an introverted empath, you may just be more sensitive to small chemical changes in the body, including those that are induced by contact with other people. In addition, there may be other hormones and neurotransmitters in play when it comes to empathy. So that's interesting. Number 5, emotions may be contagious. We are now beginning to understand just how contagious emotions can be. Let's see. To trace out the implications that this has for our scientific understanding of empaths, consider that empaths may be biologically or psychologically more likely to catch emotional contagions. However, the exact mechanism, boy, these words are really challenging me tonight. Some nights I can just breeze through all these big words, and tonight is not one of them. However, the exact mechanism via which this might occur still remains mysterious. There is also a positive piece of learning here for empaths. Specifically, research on emotional contagion shows how empaths can surround themselves with upbeat, happy, and encouraging people in order to deliberately catch good feelings from others. And I remember learning about smiling, releasing endorphins. The act of smiling can actually release endorphins, whether or not you actually feel happy at the moment. Even if you fake a smile, your brain can release endorphins. So I remember learning about that back in college, and so I thought that was really interesting too, that even if you're not feeling happy, just the very act of smiling can help you release endorphins and put you in a happy mood. I try to do that a lot. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Number 6, synesthesia. The final hypothesis worth considering is that empaths may experience a unique form of synesthesia, which is a neurological trait that links two different senses that wouldn't normally be associated with each other. For example, some individuals with synesthesia will taste particular flavors when they see certain colors. Oh, that's really interesting, because I would say within the last few months, my brain's been doing something really weird. When I read about certain things, I swear I can smell them, and it's really interesting. So it's saying some researchers have theorized that something called mirror touch synesthesia, I don't want to say that word one more time because I'm going to mess it up, is occurring. This type of condition would allow the empath to literally feel what other people are feeling. This is described as though these emotions are originating in their own bodies and not outside them. That's interesting. And related to this, if you ever get a chance to check out Oliver Sacks, he was a neurologist, and he wrote the book Awakenings that they made a movie about with Robin Williams. He he talked about so many fascinating cases that he studied, and one of them was where um, one of his patients could see music. So if what I'm telling you about the synesthesia sounds interesting, definitely look up Oliver Sacks. Um, and one of the book reviews I'm actually going to do, hopefully this month, I got to reread the book, but it's called Fire in the Brain, Clinical Tales of Hallucinations. It's very similar to a lot of things that Oliver Sacks talks about, but there are different cases how the brain just does these really unusual things in some of the cases. Like one case is a woman who's in a hospital. She starts seeing swastikas everywhere in her room, like on the walls, on her sheets, on her gown. And then there are cases where the brain has just done some remarkable things, kind of like splitting, in order to protect the person who's going through a very traumatic event. So, um, if you're interested in more about these kind of things, I would definitely recommend Oliver Sacks, and then the book review that I'm going to do as soon as I reread that book. So, done with that article. Kind of not going on my sheets tonight. Let's see. Um, okay, so, like I said, I looked at a whole bunch of different articles, and, some of them say there are 3 types of empaths. Some of them say there are 7 types of empaths. Um, so I guess it just depends on what you believe. This particular one has 10 empaths, and I'm going to go through very quickly and identify the ones that I feel that I am. That way, I like to give you kind of a real life example to kind of put with what I'm talking about. So, types of empaths. Number 1 is the physical empath. Physical empath are those who pick up the physical energy of the people and things around them. How does this work? If you have ever felt the pain of someone else's injury, you might be a physical empath. Yeah, I've had this happen to me quite recently, actually, with someone that I love being sick, and also one of my exes, he was in a very bad motorcycle accident. Sorry, this is really not my night to talk. He was in a really bad motorcycle accident, and he had he had some scars, and he had a scar, for instance, on like his right upper part of his leg. And I remember having a dream one night, and I too had that particular scar right there. And not only that, but I do feel like I get sympathy pains for people, when they're going through certain things. And I almost feel like, too, I can sense sickness in people sometimes. So it's real. I find that really interesting. Number 2, the intuitive empath, are those who have a heightened perception of the unspoken. This means that these people do not only pick up the energies in front of them, but even those that are still to come. However, intuitive empaths are not to be confused as people who can see the future. If you are an intuitive empath, your power lies in your gut feel. Over time, you will realize that your instinct is always right. This is why it is important for these types of empaths to listen to what their gut tells them at the onset of any situation. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that sometimes I've gotten really bad gut instincts about people, and I've ignored them, which is really stupid of me, because I think if people had come to me and said all of these things about, like, this person I was getting ready to enter a relationship with, and not necessarily a romantic relationship with, but a friendship, if I had ticked off all of these things, or they had ticked off all of these things and told me about this person, I would probably have told them, you know, you really need to steer clear of this person. So it's kind of like that I don't practice what I preach. Number 3, the emotional empath. Emotional empaths are the most susceptible to exhaustion. This is because you cannot avoid receiving so much energy from the outside. As you get overwhelmed with other people's emotions, you will notice certain interactions drain the life out of you. Emotional empaths are encouraged to choose the people you spend time with. For me, I think one of the biggest energy drainers for me, people-wise, are people who are extremely negative all the time, just about everything, and talk a million miles an hour about their their negative experiences and their negative lives, and people who just talk nonstop really drain my energy. I hate to say, because I mean we all get in those phases, but I get really drained when, you know, people don't take a break and, you know, kind of let me rejuvenate my energy. That really sucks my energy out of me. That, and like I said, just negative people. I mean, we all have our moments where obviously, you know, life isn't always going to be rainbows and kittens. But, you know, there are people who kind of like to live in their negativity and misery. So those are the people who really drain me. And so it is important to pick people if you can. I mean, sometimes you're going to have people like that in your family or coworkers, and you know, there's just no way to avoid that. But if you do have a choice between, you know, putting those people in your lives, you know, you might want to reconsider the ones that just suck the energy from you. I'll probably do a whole video on emotional vampires and energy vampires. Number 4, this is definitely not me. The floral empath, the plant lovers. Someone who has established a deep connection with plants. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when I go into a nursery, the plants see me and they all play dead, because I can't keep a plant alive to save my life. I killed my cactus because I forgot to water it, and I think the only things I can keep alive are the ones that I forget to water, and for whatever reason they're okay. Let's see, plant lovers. Number 5, the fauna empath. Yeah, definitely not me. Let's see. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. The fauna people are the animals. Sorry, no, I love animals. Absolutely love animals. And a lot of times feel more comfortable around animals than I do people. It's not uncommon for me to go to someone's house and sit there and play with their dog instead of talking to them. So yeah, that's definitely me. Number 6, the dream empath. Dream empaths are given a wonderful gift of remembering their dreams quite vividly. Moreover, you have the ability to interpret its message. If you are a dream empath, you believe that a dream is never just a dream. And I've mentioned in some of my other videos that I've actually been um, diagnosed with chronic nightmare disorder. My dreams are just so vivid, and I think they say that on average, the normal person has maybe 0 to 1 nightmares, maybe a month, and I probably have 0 to 1 nightmares at least, once a week. And what they define as a nightmare is just this feeling, this overwhelming feeling of dread and terror. And yeah, it's a great gift to be able to remember your dreams if they're good, but not so good when they're really bad. And I've said before in other videos, I can literally remember some of the dreams I had when I was like 5 years old. Um, and yeah, my dreams are very telling of my subconscious fears too, of things that I didn't necessarily know were bothering me, but they come out in my dreams. So, always had a very prolific dream world, and a lot of them do help me see the things that are bothering me in life. Um, so, and then sometimes I'll have dreams where I'll dream of something that you might not necessarily come in contact with very often, but then the next day, I'll see something about it. I don't know, let's say I dream about a clown, and then the next day the circus comes to town. Just weird things like that. Um, let's see. I like this. It talks about, it says that we believe a dream is never just a dream. I don't know about that. Sometimes I look at the brain sometimes as the dreaming brain as being just like a roulette wheel with all of these thoughts and memories, and sometimes it's just going around in there and it just lands on something randomly. But it says here that dreams can be a gateway for the universe to tell you something or move you into action. After all, as an empath, you know that you have your own soul's purpose to fulfill. You can quickly work out the symbols in your dreams and apply them to real life. Your dreams are your source of wisdom, and you're more than willing to impart what you learn to your loved ones. Yeah, so that definitely applies to me. Number 7, the Earth empath. While they can be regarded as quite similar to flora empaths, the Earth empaths are in tune with nature as a whole. You are hyper aware of what the planet needs and how it can be taken care of. I do care about the planet. That's probably not one, though, that rings very true for me, though. I mean, it's probably not the most prominent one for me. Number 8, the precognitive empath has the psychic abilities to feel an event or situation happening soon. They do not necessarily see the future, but they can sense it. How does it happen? If you are a precognitive empath, your mind is in tune with your dreams, your emotions, and your surroundings. You know a divine message when you feel one. While most of these messages, warnings can be seen in your dreams, or sensations such as anxiety and excitement are always great determinants of what is to come. Well, like I said, there have been some really catastrophic things happen in my life in the last few years that I was able to see coming. It was almost like a chessboard. I could see different pieces moving around the board to make way for other things to come. So yeah, I definitely do agree with that one. Number 9, the psychometric empath receives impressions through objects. The perceptions of these impressions varies from smell, sensation, texture, etc. The emotions an object evokes can also be part of its information. If you are a psychometric empath, you have the ability to know an object's history, its owner, its worth, and even its future use. This will greatly help you in deciding whether to buy clothes, jewelry, or even properties. not sure about that, but I do know that as a kid, I would give my um, my stuffed animals or my belongings. I would personify them, and that's like giving um, human-like qualities to inanimate objects. Like, oh no, don't throw my shirt. Don't do this. It might hurt its feelings. Just kind of that weird feeling too deeply kind of thing. Number 10, the telepathic empath knows how to read minds. You can access a person's unexpressed thoughts by tying their words, their behavior, and their emotions together. Um, this is especially true when you are faced with a situation where someone is blatantly lying to you. Um, yeah, I do feel like, not that I can read minds necessarily, but sort of with some people. Like I said in my highly sensitive person video, I feel like there are about 3 people in my life that I have this kind of psychic bond with. Like one morning I was laying in bed ready to go to sleep, and I thought of my friend that I was talking about, and I said, I really need to contact her. And as soon as those words came out of my head, the phone rang, and it was her. Um, and then one of my exes, he used to get freaked out because I could pretty much tell him what he was thinking at any given time. But, I think when you get to know someone, though, and you're so intuitive, I think that just happens. Maybe not. I don't know. Um, but I'm going to use that to transition into some other types of empaths. Um, I joke a lot about it's a good thing that I use my powers for good, being the highly sensitive person and an empath, because that, and like I said, I like to learn as much as I can about the people in my life, especially my loved ones. But in doing that, you learn about a person's, what makes them tick, their likes, their dislikes, their weaknesses, and their strengths. And if you're not careful, um, you know, you could do a lot of damage with that knowledge. If especially in an argument or a fight, and I actually pray sometimes that God blesses my words and keeps my tongue, from inflicting damage on people, going for the proverbial jugular. Um, but now I'm going to talk about some people who actually use their empathic abilities for bad, and they're called a dark empath. And that's something that I believe is something that's kind of recent. So a dark empath uses their empathetic gifts as a weapon for self-gain. Hence, if you are in a toxic relationship with a dark empath, find ways to get out of it as soon as possible. Um, so they mentioned three of the personality traits for the dark empath. Okay, these are actually in my notes. So the first one is psychopathy, which is a neuropsychiatric disorder marked by deficient emotional responses, lack of empathy, and poor behavioral controls, commonly resulting in persistent antisocial deviance and criminal behavior. So basically, you're psychopath. The next one, God, I'm already having trouble talking tonight. In all of the times that I've rehearsed this, I said it perfectly. Let's see if I can try. Second trait, Machiavellianism. Oh, thank God. So that is in the field of personality psychology. It's a personality trait centered on manipulativeness, callousness, and indifference to morality. Though unrelated to the historical figures or his works, the trait is named after the political philosophy of Niccolo Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince, which I've never read, but I guess I should. So psychologists Richard Christie and Florence Geis used edited and truncated statements inspired by his words to study variations in human behaviors. And they even came up with what's called a Mach 4 test, 20 questions, Likert scale personality survey. So it says those who score high on the scale are more likely to have a high level of deceitfulness and an unempathetic temperament. And then the third personality trait for the dark empath is narcissism, and I think we're all familiar what narcissism is. So they said I like to try to find an example. So an example in literature they said would be Professor Snape from Harry Potter. I haven't read the books, and I haven't seen the movies a million times, so I can't really say how accurate that is or not. So you people can comment below and maybe tell me a little bit more about him, and how he uses intuitiveness to glean information from his students, and then use it for nefarious purposes. But I thought that was really interesting because I got on a YouTube channel the other night about empaths, and it said that when empaths are, I think I even took a screenshot of it, when empaths are triggered or pushed to their brink, they can be the most dangerous people or most feared people on the planet. So I thought that was interesting. And then we've talked about a lot of the downsides and the positives, but now I want to talk about just real quick how to survive as an empath. Okay. So what do you do if you're an empath and you're absorbing all this negative energy from people? And I mentioned this before. Number one, ditch the drainers. Let's deal with one of the biggest cons of being an empath, energy drainers. So this made me laugh. Let's see. One of them says, pick up the phone right now and think of one of your negative people in your life and how you're going to distance yourself from them. I don't recommend that. But like I said, it is important to, try to protect ourselves from people who do drain our energy. And for me too, being a highly sensitive person and an empath, on top of being chronically ill and disabled for over 30 years, I'm in constant physical pain, and have a lot of constant physical symptoms. So, I've got all of that combined with the highly sensitive person and the empath. So, honestly, I'm surprised I'm still here, to be honest, because that's just a lot to pile on one person. So, it becomes even more draining when you're not feeling well physically. So you really do need to protect your energy. Number two, get energy from positive people. So it says spend time with negative people and you will absorb their negative energy. Spend time with positive people and you will absorb their positive energy. And for me, the type of people I really like to surround myself with are kind of calm, even-keeled people, very patient, very positive. a lot of what I haven't experienced in life. Um, I'm kind of, I guess I feel like I've been used to a lot of impatient people who who are very negative and very easily excited. And when I say easily excited, I mean like high strung, and those are like those are the energy suckers for me, the things that really deplete my energy and make me stressed. And one thing, being chronically ill with an autoimmune disorder is I'm super, super sensitive to stress. And when I say that, I mean um, everybody is physically and psychologically sensitive to stress, but um, now that I'm sick with an autoimmune disorder, I can really feel the physical effects of stress. Um, like I just posted something on Facebook the other night how you need to like breathe and unclench your shoulders and everything, but I can feel the negative effects of stress and how how draining it can be, and it can actually emotional stress can bring on flares for me, my fibromyalgia flares, my chronic fatigue syndrome flares. Um, so a lot of people who aren't sick like this, I don't think they realize how dangerous stress is, how debilitating it can be. Um, so I guess I feel kind of fortunate to know that and tell people, look, stress can really kill you. I mean, no kidding. Give you chest pains, and I mean, I'm really sensitive to stress. So, yeah, I like to be around positive, happy, patient, calm people. Uh, I have a saying that the only place where I like my drama is in the books that I read or write or TV shows I watch or movies I watch. I don't really have any room for drama in my life. Life's hard enough. Um, 3, create an energy shield. Um, let's see. Imagine an energy shield surrounding you, preventing their negative energy from entering entering your mind. I don't know, like a cone of silence or something. I don't know. I'm not sure that would work for me. I did see on another site they talked about physically distancing yourself from someone, like stepping back from someone who is putting out all of these negative vibes, and I thought that was good. Number 4, be mindful of your thoughts. Um, right now, I'm too mindful of my thoughts. I have all this time, this downtime, um, and I'm always um, trying to say, okay, was that an anxious thought, or was that, what kind of thought was that? Um, and I'm trying to kind of rewire my anxious brain, and I'm like, okay, what if, that is an anxious thought, but what if we call it something else? What if we say, no, that's not anxiety, that's happiness. And I think that would kind of go along with what cognitive therapy teaches people, and that's to change your way of thinking about something. But it says mindfulness makes you more aware of your thoughts and feelings, and once you are aware, you will have control. Yeah, I'm not having control yet, and I'm working on it. But I know another thing is they say to be aware of your triggers. What are your triggers as a highly sensitive person? Um, Sometimes if we can identify those and write those down, we might be able to change the way we think about them, or we may be able to avoid them, depending what they are. Um, Number 5, forgive. Oh, this is a big one for me. To cleanse the negative energy that is accumulated in your soul, practice forgiveness. I'm working hard on this one. It's not going well. I'm just going to admit. I've been praying to be able to forgive a few certain people in my life, and I know that I need to as a Christian, and I know that I need to because, harboring that negative energy in you is going to harm you physically and emotionally. And I've kind of come to a point in my life where I don't want to hold in those negative feelings anymore and internalize them. I want to get rid of them. And I think people are going to have trouble accepting that, because, like I said, life isn't always puppies and rainbows, but a lot of people have trouble when you're being honest about your negative feelings. Like I said, some people tend to dwell there, but there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm not in a good mood today, and just getting your feelings out. So I'm trying this new thing. Like I said, I want to kind of be more vocal about, any negative emotions I'm feeling. So I think maybe if I get them out, you can just kind of sweep them away, I'm hoping. I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, harboring or holding in any negative energy is harmful. And number 6, let go of old emotions. Um, and it says here, emotional baggage causes the empath adrenal fatigue syndrome because emotions wears you down. I did a video, I think it's called My Darkest Days, How I Found the Sun. In 2015, a lot of my physical symptoms came to a head, and including my anxiety. I was in bad, bad, bad shape. I couldn't even sit in the bathtub for very long without feeling claustrophobic because some of my breathing problems got worse. My sinuses, my chest wall syndrome, which is it's inflammation of the rib cartilage, and it feels like a snake is wrapping around you. So I was having all these physical things going on that made me feel claustrophobic. And I had like this energy, kind of not good energy, just pinging off of me, and just like this full-blown panic. And I went to a chiropractor to try to address my chest wall syndrome. And he said, I think you have adrenal fatigue, severe adrenal fatigue. And there are a lot of doctors who don't believe in this, and that's fine. But I can tell you that it's very real. And he said, you've had a lot of years of constant stress, and when that happens, your body releases cortisol and it releases adrenaline. And, we have that fight or flight in us, in a certain situation. And with adrenal fatigue, they said, imagine if you just narrowly missed being in a car accident. Your adrenaline's going to be going. Well, when you've got adrenal fatigue, that's how you always feel. You are amped up, and I don't mean amped up in a good way, like hyper vigilant and just easily startled. It was one of the worst things I've ever gone through in my life. So I'm trying not to get to that point again, and trying to let go of those negative emotions. Number 7, meditation. Most empaths crave inner peace. Yeah, I find the older I get, that's really all I want is inner peace. I want to help people. I want to try to make them happy while trying to carve out a little happiness for myself. I don't really meditate per se, but I listen to a lot of sound frequencies. I've got a small playlist on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to add to it different they're called isochronic tones by Neural Beats. And I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on YouTube, but these frequencies have been instrumental in really helping me with everything from anxiety to depression to motivation, all sorts of things. So I'm really big into those. And like I said, they have really, really helped me. Number 8, face the fear and say no anyway. Like I said, as a people pleaser, this is really hard for me because I don't want to make people mad. I don't want to upset them. But if by setting boundaries to protect yourself, if that angers somebody in your life, then those are not the people you want in your life because, like I said in my highly sensitive person video, it's really important that you spend time around people who accept your idiosyncrasies. They know who you are and they accept you the way you are. That's really important. So, like I said, if you have people who are going to be angry at you for saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this, and stand up for yourself, then those are really not the people you need in your life. 9, bathe your spirit in nature. I'm currently trying to make money so I can move out of the Midwest so I can get to a beach. Yes, it says bathe your spirit in nature. Definitely. I say that one of the few places that I feel relaxed is around water, and I actually have a book that delves into what happens to people's brains when they're around water, and the physiological changes and why some people are drawn to water more than others. It's called The Blue Mind. Number 10, change your perspective. And that's one thing that I really try to do. Like I said, I'm trying to, when I'm assessing my emotions and I think, oh, well, that's an anxious thought, I'm trying to kind of rewire my brain. And I feel like, the anxious brain, for instance, is something that took me many, many years to kind of wire my brain like that. So I feel like if I do the right things, I can rewire my brain not to be anxious. So that's something that I'm really trying to do. Let's see. See the good in pain, see the many life lessons that people gain through suffering. Then you will be less urgent to stop pain when you see it. Oh, no. Pain is pain. Like I said, I've probably been in pain every minute of every day for about 30 years now, so my perspective is probably a little different than others. Pain is often the pathway to enlightenment. Well, then I should really be enlightened. But let's see. Okay. So, I'm sorry. I know I stumbled over a lot of my words tonight. Some nights are better than others for me when I have my brain fog with my fibromyalgia. Sometimes I can just, spit all these words out without any problem. And then other times I just really fall all over myself and all over my tongue. But I hope you were able to get something positive from this, and maybe you were able to see, hey, that sounds a lot like me, and for me, knowing other people are like this makes me feel like I'm not alone, and that's always a good feeling when you know there are other people like that. So I am not sure what my next Tools for Life video is going to be, but thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please like and please subscribe. It helps me a lot. And if you have topics that you would like me to discuss, please let me know. I just hope that in sharing a lot of my experiences in life, maybe it can help someone else. If I tell my story, someone else might be able to relate to it. So thanks for watching.